The twin moons were rising over the crystal city when Lyra walked alone across the sky bridge. Soft blue light shone on her silver skin, but she felt no warmth from it. Tonight, she was no warrior, no respected daughter of her clan, no proud bondmate. Tonight, she was only a woman who had been thrown away. A few hours earlier, her bondmate Rawl had stood before the high circle and rejected her. He spoke his words clearly, loudly, so all could hear. "She is barren," he said. "She cannot give me children. She is unfit to stand at my side." People gasped, some whispered, and some nodded as if they already knew this truth. Lyra just stood there in silence, unable to breathe, unable to speak. She had given her loyalty, her heart, her years of service, yet he cast her aside like dust. Now she walked with her head down, hearing the soft footsteps of others who quickly moved away when she passed. Even strangers were afraid of being near someone labeled barren. In her society, children were everything. A woman who could not give life was seen as broken, useless, a burden. Lyra tried to stay strong, but her chest felt heavy, as if her heart had cracked inside her. She reached the forest edge where the bright city lights faded. Here, the air smelled of wild trees and energy crystals deep underground. Lyra often came here when she needed silence, but tonight she heard something strange, a sharp sound, then a loud crash. The echo rolled across the valley, followed by the smell of burning metal. Lyra turned her head toward the noise, her warrior instincts waking again. Something or someone had fallen from the sky. Her people did not report any incoming ships tonight. She narrowed her eyes, sensing danger and mystery. Maybe it was a smuggler, maybe a lost trader, or maybe something worse. She moved through the trees with soft steps, her senses sharp. Glow insects floated around her, lighting the path with small green dots. Through the bushes, she finally saw the source of the crash. A small shuttle, human-made, half buried in the dirt, smoke drifting from its damaged engines. Humans rarely came to this part of the galaxy. They were seen as fragile, emotional, and unpredictable. Most aliens avoided them, yet Lyra felt no hatred, only curiosity. A weak light blinked inside the shuttle. Lyra heard movement, soft voices, then a child crying. Her heart jumped. Children. Human children. Why were there children here, so far from their home? She stepped closer, unsure if she should call her patrol or walk away. The door of the shuttle suddenly opened with a hiss. A human man stepped out, coughing from the smoke. He looked exhausted, his dark hair messy, his clothes ripped from the crash. But his eyes were alert, protective, scanning the forest for danger. When he saw Lyra, he froze. She could see fear in his eyes, but also determination. Behind him, 4 small children peeked out. 2 boys and 2 girls, all holding on to each other. They whispered something in human language, frightened and confused. Lyra felt something inside her twist painfully. They were scared, helpless, and far from home, just like she felt tonight. The human man slowly raised his hands to show he was not a threat. "He don't want trouble," he said in a calm but tired voice. "My name is Daniel. I'm a father. These are my kids. Our ship crashed. Please, we only need help." Lyra did not move for a long moment. She watched the children, their eyes wide and shining in the moonlight. They clung to their father, trembling with every sound from the forest. Lyra knew she should call her patrol. Humans were not welcome here without permission. If the soldiers found them, they would arrest the man and take the children away. Her people did not care much for human emotions. They would call it protocol. But Lyra knew it would break these children. Daniel took a small step forward, keeping his hands up. "Please," he said softly, "my kids are scared. I need to get them to safety." His voice shook, not with fear, but with desperate love. Lyra had never heard a man speak like that. Her own bondmate had never shown such emotion. Rawl only ever spoke of strength, honor, and power, never of gentleness, care, or family warmth. One of the children, a small girl with short hair, looked at Lyra with big eyes. "Are you going to hurt us?" she asked, her voice trembling. The question hit Lyra like a blade. No child had ever looked at her with such trust mixed with fear. Lyra slowly kneeled down, lowering herself to the child's height. "No," she said gently, "I will not hurt you." The little girl's eyes softened. Daniel let out a breath of relief. Lyra stood again, looking at the smoking shuttle, the frightened children, and the brave human father. This man had crossed half the galaxy to protect his children. He stood before a strange alien woman without fear for himself, only fear for them. Lyra thought of her own people who had thrown her away the moment she lost value. She thought of Rawl, now celebrating with others while she walked alone in the dark. Here was a man who valued his children more than pride. A man who begged for help not for himself, but for his family. For the first time in many years, Lyra felt her heart pull her towards a choice no one expected, a choice she had never been brave enough to make before. She looked at Daniel and his children, and then she spoke the words that would change all their lives. "I will help you."
Lyra led Daniel and his children deeper into the forest. The night air was cool, and the sound of strange animals echoed far away. The children held hands and stayed close to their father. Daniel kept looking around, trying to understand this alien world. Lyra walked in front of them, silent and alert, listening for danger. She moved quickly but carefully. Her steps made no sound on the forest floor. Daniel noticed how skillful she was, how she checked every direction before taking another step. Even in her sadness, she carried the strength of her people. After some time, they reached a hidden cave covered by glowing vines. The vines shone with soft green light, making the place look magical instead of frightening. "This is a safe place," Lyra said quietly. "No patrols come here." The children held hands and stayed close to their father. Daniel kept looking around, trying to understand this alien world. Lyra walked in front of them, silent and alert, listening for danger. Inside, the cave was warm and dry. Crystal rocks on the walls reflected light, creating gentle colors in the dark. Daniel helped his children sit down, checking if they were hurt. One boy had a small cut on his arm from the crash. Daniel cleaned it with a cloth, whispering comforting words. Lyra watched him for a moment. Human fathers were different from her people. Alien males rarely cared for children directly. They left that to the women or the caretakers of the clan. Seeing a man clean a child's wound with such patience surprised her. "You care for them a lot," she said softly. Daniel looked up and gave a tired smile. "They are my world," he said. "I would cross any distance for them." The youngest child, a little girl with big brown eyes, walked toward Lyra. She touched her glowing wrist with small fingers. "Your skin is pretty," she whispered. Lyra blinked, surprised by the simple, innocent praise. No one in her own world had spoken kindly to her in a long time. "Thank you," she whispered back, her voice soft. The child smiled and returned to her siblings. Daniel sat beside Lyra, keeping some distance, but showing respect. "Thank you for helping us," he said. "We had nowhere else to go." Lyra looked away, her eyes dark with old pain. "I know what it feels like to have nowhere to go," she replied. Daniel frowned gently. "What happened to you?" he asked softly, not pushing, only offering space. For a moment, Lyra didn't answer. Her voice felt trapped in her throat, held down by shame and memory. But then she spoke, slowly, carefully. "My bondmate rejected me today. He said I am barren." The word tasted like poison, even now. Daniel's face changed, not with pity, but with sadness and anger for her. "I'm sorry," he said, whispered. "That's cruel." Lyra gave a small, bitter smile. "In my world, a woman without children has no worth." Daniel shook his head. "That's not true in mine. A person's worth is not their ability to have more people." His voice was gentle but strong. It felt strange to Lyra, hearing someone defend her without knowing her. Silence filled the cave for a moment. Only the soft breathing of the children could be heard. They had fallen asleep against their blankets, worn out from fear and travel. Lyra stood and stepped outside the cave for a moment. The cool breeze touched her face, calming her mind. She looked toward the sky where ships from her city sometimes flew. She knew patrols would be out soon. If they found Daniel and the children, they would not accept any excuses. Daniel quietly joined her outside. He stood beside her, watching the sky the same way she did. "Are we in danger?" he asked softly. "Yes," answered Lyra. "My people do not trust humans." Daniel nodded as if he expected this. "We won't survive without help," he said. "I know that." Lyra looked at him, really looked. His clothes were burned and ripped, yet he still stood tall. He kept his voice calm, even though fear lived in his eyes. He held himself like a strong leader, even as he protected 4 small children alone. The strength he carried was not the sharp, cold strength of warriors. It was warm, quiet strength. Strength born from love, not pride. "You are brave," Lyra said softly. Daniel gave a little laugh, tired and honest. "I'm just a parent," he replied. "Parents don't get to be weak." Lyra felt something shift in her chest. Something she hadn't felt in a long time. Respect. Admiration. A strange warmth she did not understand. She pushed it aside quickly, telling herself she needed to stay focused. Suddenly the forest shook with a distant sound, a deep boom, then the familiar whir of alien patrol engines. Lyra's eyes widened. "They are searching the crash site," she whispered. Daniel tensed. The children inside the cave stirred from sleep, sensing the danger in the air. "We must leave here soon," Lyra said. "They will follow the tracks." Daniel looked at his sleeping children, then back at her, fear returning to his eyes. "Where can we go?" he asked. Lyra thought for a long moment. There was one place she could take them, but it was dangerous. If her people found out she was helping humans, her punishment would be severe. Still, she remembered Rawl's cold voice calling her useless. She remembered the stares, the whispers, the way everyone stepped away from her. For the first time in many years, she felt a choice that mattered. A choice where she could decide her own path, not follow the rules of others. She turned to Daniel, her eyes firm with a decision. "There is a safe path," she said, "but it is long and difficult." Daniel nodded without hesitation. "We'll follow you," he said. "We trust you." Lyra inhaled slowly, feeling strength rise inside her again. Not the strength of a warrior who fought for honor, but the strength of someone who fought for people who needed her. "Then we move at first light," she said, "and I will get you and your children to safety." The forest wind blew softly, as if agreeing with her choice, and for the first time since her rejection, Lyra did not feel alone.
Morning came slowly in the alien forest. Soft light passed through the tall, glowing trees, and strange birds made echoing sounds in the distance. Daniel's children woke up first, rubbing their eyes and looking around the cave as if remembering the fear from last night. Lyra stood near the entrance, watching the sky with sharp eyes. She had not slept. Her mind stayed alert the whole night, worried that the trolls might find them. Daniel walked over to her. "You didn't rest," he said gently. Lyra shook her head. "I needed to make sure you were safe," she replied. Daniel looked at her with quiet gratitude. "You saved us," he said. Again. Lyra did not answer. She still did not know why she was helping them. Maybe because she was rejected, forgotten, unseen. Maybe because Daniel and his children needed someone. Maybe because they looked at her with trust, something she had never expected from anyone again. When the children finished eating the little food they had left, Lyra began preparing them for the journey. "We must move fast," she said. "My people are good hunters. They will follow the tracks from the crash." Daniel nodded and gathered the children close. Their small hands held on to his clothes, afraid to lose him.
Lyra led the group out of the cave and into the forest. The ground was covered in soft blue moss that glowed under their feet. The air smelled of sweet leaves and crystal dust. But today, there was no time to admire the beauty. Today, they needed to hide. After walking for some time, Lyra suddenly raised her hand, signaling everyone to stop. Daniel froze, pulling the children behind him. "What is it?" he whispered. Lyra listened carefully. A low humming sound moved through the trees, then another, then a metal click. "Patrol drones," Lyra whispered. "They are close." The children gasped, and Daniel held them tighter. "Stay low," Lyra said quickly. "Follow me." She guided them between large tree roots glowing with deep purple light. They crawled through tight spaces and moved behind giant crystal rocks. The humming grew louder. A blue searchlight passed over their hiding place, making the children tremble. Daniel put his hand on one child's shoulder to keep them calm. Lyra held her breath. She could hear the mechanical clicking of the drones scanning the area. If they detected any human life, soldiers would come instantly. Her people did not forgive those who disobeyed the law. Helping humans was forbidden. The light slowly moved away. The drone's sound faded. Lyra exhaled slowly. "That was close," she whispered. Daniel nodded, sweat on his forehead. "How far is the safe place?" he asked. Lyra thought for a moment. "A full day of walking," she said, "if we do not run into trouble." Daniel gave a small smile. "We always run into trouble." Lyra almost smiled, the first real smile she had in many days. They continued deeper into the forest. The glowing plants grew thicker, and strange creatures watched them from the shadows. At one point, a tall animal with crystal horns crossed their path. The children stared with wide eyes. Lyra placed a finger on her lips to keep them quiet. The animal sniffed the air, then walked away slowly. After hours of walking, Daniel began to tire. The youngest child asked to be carried. Daniel lifted her into his arms, even though he was exhausted. Lyra saw this and felt something warm inside her chest. She had seen warriors carry weapons, not children. Daniel carried his daughter as if she was the most important thing in the universe. "You love them very much," Lyra said quietly. Daniel nodded. "They are all I have," he said. "I promised their mother I would protect them." Lyra's steps slowed. She looked at him with new understanding. "You lost your mate," she said softly. Daniel nodded, sadness filling his eyes. "Yes," he whispered, "but I still have my family." A sudden loud roar broke the air. The ground shook under their feet. The children screamed and grabbed Daniel. Lyra's eyes went wide. She said, "That's a crystal beast. We must run." A huge creature crashed through the trees. Its body was covered in sharp crystal plates, glowing with dangerous red light. It roared again, shaking the forest. Daniel lifted two children, while the other two ran beside him. Lyra moved in front of them, taking the lead. "This way," she yelled. They ran through tall grass and around giant rocks. The beast chased them, smashing trees with its heavy body. Lyra grabbed a glowing branch from a crystal tree. She waved it in the air, sending bright sparks flying. The beast paused, confused by the light. "Keep running," Lyra called. The family reached a narrow path between two cliffs. The beast was too large to fit. It roared angrily, but could not follow. Daniel fell to his knees, breathing hard. The children cried and hugged him tightly. Lyra stood guard, watching to make sure the beast did not find another way. When everything finally quieted, Daniel looked up at Lyra. "You saved us," he said, voice shaking. Lyra shook her head.
"We saved each other," she replied. For a long moment they just looked at each other, two different worlds, two different lives, yet walking the same dangerous path. Lyra felt something inside her she could not name, something warm, something strong, something new. But the moment ended when she heard another sound, metal footsteps in the distance. Her heart froze. "They are coming," she whispered. "The soldiers." Daniel tightened his grip on his children. Lyra stepped forward, eyes sharp with courage. "We will not be caught," she said firmly. "I will get you out." And for the first time in her life, Lyra felt she was fighting not for honor or for a clan, but for something far more important, for a family that was not hers, yet felt like it could be.
The forest grew darker as Lyra led Daniel and the children through the narrow cliff path. The air felt heavy, as if the world was holding its breath. Metal footsteps echoed behind them, slowly getting closer. Lyra knew exactly who they belonged to. Her people, the patrol soldiers, and their leader, Rawl, her former bondmate. Daniel sensed her worry. "Is it them?" he asked quietly. Lyra nodded, her jaw tight. "They are close," she said. "Too close." The children clung to Daniel, their tiny bodies shaking. Lyra looked around, trying to find another safe route, but the cliffs were too steep. The only way was forward, into the old ruins hidden deep in the forest. "We must reach the ruins," Lyra said. "The stone walls block sensors." Daniel nodded and lifted the smallest child into his arms. The others followed close behind him. Lyra led them at a fast pace, her heart pounding like a drum. Soon, stone pillars appeared between the trees, covered in vines and glowing moss. The ruins were old, older than her people. Tall, broken arches stood like silent guards. This place scared many, but today it was their best hope. As they entered the ruins, the sound of soldiers grew louder. Lyra motioned for Daniel and the children to hide behind a large fallen pillar. "Stay here," she whispered. "Do not move." Daniel nodded, fear in his eyes, but he trusted Lyra completely. He held the children close, trying to keep them quiet. Lyra stepped forward, standing between her people and the humans. This was the moment she had been fearing. Her breath was slow, but her hands were steady. Then she heard a voice she knew too well, a cold, confident voice. "Lyra," Rawl said as he stepped into the ruins. "What are you doing here?" Lyra did not answer right away. Rawl walked closer, his armor shining under the soft forest light. Behind him stood 5 soldiers, all armed, all watching her. But Rawl looked at her with a mix of annoyance and disbelief. "I heard rumors," he said. "A human ship crashed." He paused, eyes narrowing. "And some said you were seen near it." Lyra kept her face calm. "I walk where I wish," she simply said. Rawl laughed under his breath, a sharp, cruel sound. "No," he said. "A barren woman has no path of her own." The words stabbed deeper than he knew. But Lyra did not flinch. Not this time. Not in front of Daniel's children who needed her courage. Rawl stepped closer, his eyes scanning the ruins. "There are humans here," he said. "I can smell them." Lyra shifted her stance, blocking his path. "You cannot go further," she said. Rawl raised an eyebrow. "Are you protecting humans now?" he asked mockingly. Lyra kept her voice steady. "I am protecting innocent lives." Rawl's face hardened. "You are a disgrace," he said. "First you fail your clan, now you betray your people." Lyra's heart burned, but she stood tall. "I failed no one," she replied. "You failed me." Rawl's expression twisted with anger. "You dare speak to me like this?" he shouted. His soldiers raised their weapons. Daniel held his breath behind the pillar. The children hugged him tighter, trembling silently. Lyra felt fear move up her spine, but she also felt something stronger. The memory of Daniel's gentle voice, the children's trusting eyes, the warmth she felt when they called her kind. She had never been chosen by her own people, but she had been trusted by strangers.
I will not let you harm them, Lyra said, her voice firm. Rawl laughed again, loud and sharp. You think you can stop me? He asked, stepping closer. Lyra's hand moved to her energy blade. I will try, she said. Before Rawl could reply, Daniel stepped out from behind the pillar. He stood tall, even though he was unarmed and outnumbered. Stop, Daniel said, his voice steady but strong. Rawl turned toward him with shock and disgust. A human? He asked. You dare stand before me? Daniel took a step forward, keeping his children behind him. I will not hide while you threaten the woman who saved my family. His voice carried weight, not of power, but of pure bravery. Even Lyra felt shocked by his boldness. Rawl's expression darkened. You speak as if she matters? He said. She is nothing. Daniel shook his head, slowly. To you maybe, he said, but to us, she is everything. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. His words were simple, yet they felt like a warm flame inside her chest. No one had ever spoken for her like that, not in her whole life. Rawl stepped forward, ready to strike Daniel, but Lyra moved instantly. She blocked Rawl's arm with her blade. Sparks flew through the air. Her eyes were sharp with fire. Touch him, she said, and you will answer to me. Rawl stared at him, stunned. You would fight your own kind for them? He asked, in disbelief. Lyra nodded slowly. Yes, she said, because they gave me more respect in one day than you did in years. Rawl roared with anger and ordered his soldiers forward, but the ruins suddenly shook as an ancient stone door collapsed. The sound echoed loudly, scattering dust and fear across everyone. Lyra grabbed Daniel and the children. This way, she shouted. Run! They sprinted through the ruins as rocks fell behind them. Rawl and his soldiers struggled to follow, but the collapsing walls slowed them. Lyra led Daniel and the children into a dark tunnel, hidden behind a broken pillar. Daniel held Lyra's hand for a moment. You saved us, he whispered. Lyra looked at him, breathless, heart racing. No, she said softly. We saved each other. And for the first time in her life, Lyra felt something she had never known before, the strength of being chosen, not rejected.
The tunnel was dark and quiet as Lyra guided Daniel and the children deeper inside. Only the soft glow from the crystals on the walls gave them light. The air was cool, and every sound echoed softly through the stone passage. Daniel carried one child while the others held on to his clothes. Lyra walked ahead, checking each turn to make sure they were safe. Behind them, the ruins above continued to collapse, blocking the path where Rawl and the soldiers had been. The falling stones created a natural barrier. For now, they were safe. But Lyra knew the soldiers would not give up easily. They would send more patrols soon. After walking for a long time, the tunnel finally opened into a large underground chamber. It was quiet, peaceful, and filled with soft blue light from ancient crystal trees. Daniel stared in awe. It's beautiful, he whispered. Lyra nodded slowly. This is an old sanctuary, a place my people forgot. The children touched the glowing crystal bark with wonder in their eyes. It feels warm, one child said. Lyra watched them carefully, making sure nothing around them was dangerous. Daniel lowered the smallest child from his arms and turned to Lyra. Thank you, he said, his voice filled with emotion. You saved all of us, again. Lyra looked away for a moment. Her heart felt strange, full, warm. She said softly, I only did what was right. Daniel smiled gently. Sometimes doing what is right is harder than doing what is easy. Lyra breathed slowly, letting his words settle inside her. No one had ever told her she made a good choice. No one had ever stood beside her the way Daniel had. Her entire life had been about following the rules, serving her clan, pleasing her bondmate. Yet, in the end, none of them valued her. But this human family did. After some rest, Lyra led them toward the far side of the chamber.
There was another tunnel leading upward. She explained, "This tunnel leads to the outer lands. Humans have an outpost there. They will take you in." Daniel looked at her with surprise. "You know the way to a human base?" he asked. Lyra gave a small nod. "Yes," she said. "My people keep maps of all territories, even human ones." The children gathered around Lyra as she spoke. "Will you come with us?" the smallest girl asked, her voice soft and hopeful. The question hit Lyra like warm sunlight inside her chest. She did not answer right away. She looked at Daniel, who waited silently, letting her choose on her own. Lyra felt fear and hope mixing inside her. If she went with them, she would be declared a traitor by her people. If she stayed, she would return to a life where she was unwanted, a life where her worth was measured by something she could not give, a barren woman, a rejected bondmate, a shadow of who she could be. But this human family did know that, like her, see her strength, her courage, her kindness. They saw her as a protector, a guardian, a hero. For the first time, she had the chance to choose her own path. Lyra began softly. She looked at the children's hopeful faces, at Daniel's steady, gentle eyes, at the safe tunnel waiting to take them to a new beginning. Then she made her choice. "Yes," she said quietly, "I will come with you." The children cheered with joy and hugged her legs. Daniel smiled, relief and gratitude shining his eyes. "We would be honored to have you," he said. Lyra felt her throat tighten. No one had ever said such words to her before. She lowered herself to the children's height and touched their heads softly. "I will protect you," she whispered, "all of you." The journey through the last tunnel was long but safe. Daniel carried one child while Lyra watched every corner. When they reached the exit, bright sunlight filled the space. They stepped out into open land. Green fields stretched far, and a small human outpost stood in the distance. Human guards saw Daniel and quickly ran toward him. Their eyes widened when they saw Lyra, but Daniel stepped in front of her. "She is with us," he said firmly. "She saved our lives." The guards nodded, trusting his word. They welcomed the family and allowed Lyra to enter. Inside the outpost, people looked at her with curiosity but no hatred, no whispers, no judgment. For the first time in her life, she did not feel lesser. She felt seen. She felt accepted. Daniel approached her later after the children had been given food and warm beds. He stood beside her quietly. "You don't have to stay alone now. You can stay with us if you want." Lyra looked at him, her heart beating fast. He spoke with gentle honesty, not force, not pressure, just a simple offer of belonging. Lyra breathed in slowly. Then she nodded. "I want to stay," she said. Daniel smiled, warm and sincere. Then, "Welcome home," he said. Lyra felt something soft inside her chest, a feeling she had never felt before, a feeling of light, of possibility. She was no longer rejected, no longer unwanted. She had chosen a new path, a new family, a new beginning. And in that moment, she understood something important. Humans were not the weak species her people believed. They were strong, in a different way. Strong in love, in loyalty, in heart. And now she was part of that strength, forever.